Okay guys, here we go. So now we got the pan in the garage. I should say rolling pan because it's still a rolling pan. Funny that something just like this is exactly what's under a car like this. And we're gonna shorten it up 14¼ inches and make it into a buggy. So the first thing we're gonna do today is yank this motor because I know the motor runs and I know it runs well. But like I said, I'm not gonna use this motor for this project at all. I've got something else in store for it, so I wanna keep it intact. So I'm gonna pull this thing out and then we're gonna start tearing the whole thing down. So let's get to it. So all you guys that are into Volkswagens know, but for those of you that are new or don't know, I'm gonna show you. A Volkswagen engine is actually held on by 4 bolts and that's it. Usually it's only held on by 3 because everybody skips this one in the back here. Actually this one right here that's buried behind the doghouse. This one actually has it. Because this is a later case, it has a fitting on the front side there where you can just put the bolt in from the transaxle housing, which is awesome. You don't have to try and tighten this up with your hand. But this one's missing here. There should be one there. And then on the bottom of the bell housing, there's one on each side. Right here is one, and on the other side is a matching other one. So basically 4 bolts and your motor comes out. So how long does it take? I don't know. The world record is probably what, a few seconds? I don't know. We're gonna get these things off and pull this motor out. So let's get to it. But before I pull this motor out, I just want to mention one thing. Obviously we don't really care about any of the cables or wires or any of that stuff because we're not reusing any of it. If you were, you can undo this clutch adjustment right here, the wing nut, and you can pull it out of the way or whatever. I'm not using it, I don't care. Throttle cable, same thing, don't care. Heater controls, again, I'm not gonna be using the heater, so that stuff, to get rid of it, just do this. Get yourself some cutters like this and make your life easier. Just clip all of them. That. And now I just made life harder for myself. That. Okay. And then we're gonna cut the heaters, which are here. Boom. And there's one more right here. See it? Okay. Now we're gonna unbolt. Let's just loosen these up real quick. Just want to get this one started. So we're going to leave that one in to hold the motor, and I'm going to pull this bottom one now. So I got all but one bolt out of this thing ready to come out. So what you normally do is you'll stick a jack under it and you can sort of shimmy it and pull it out from the transmission. But I like these things. I got this car at Harbor Freight. These things are awesome. I think they have like a 500-pound capacity and a 1,000-pound capacity, and it'll lift all the way up to here. So instead of breaking your back and trying to get it onto a jack, what I usually do is I'll just wheel this sucker right underneath it, jack it into position when I'm ready, and just wheel that motor right out, and that's exactly what we're gonna do. Okay, so we got all the bolts out now. It's sort of supported by the cart. You just want to shake it around, make sure that it's nice and loose, and I can see it separating from the bell housing here. So what we're gonna do, get a little more pressure on our cart and just wheel this sucker out of here. Hopefully. I need to go down a little bit. Sometimes they're stubborn, but you'll win. Yep, looks like it's ready. It's a balance. You just got to get it in the right spot. There it is. And it's out. So set this aside, tear the rest of it down. We'll get to that later. So like I said before, this was a 65 Baja. So as a 65, you would expect it to come with a 6-volt transmission and a 40 horse motor, 65 being the last year of a 40 horse. But as I showed you, this is a later 1600 dual port that was upgraded and put in this car, which a lot of people did because it's extra power and these things were cheap, so why not give your Baja a nice little factory upgrade. But this transmission, as you can see here, is a 6-volt trans. I'm not sure if it's the original, but you can tell it's 6-volt because what they've done is they do what a lot of people do. They grind this out in here to clear a 12-volt flywheel. Nothing wrong with doing it that way. People have been doing it like that for years. But I'm not going to use this transmission. I'm going to use a brand new 12-volt that we're going to build. Probably like a Pro Street Flyer, so you're going to get a freeway gear so you can keep up with modern traffic, plus a little bit stronger internals with a differential and that kind of thing. But you see this a lot, so if you're tearing an old Volkswagen apart and you want to know what transmission's in it, you know, a good way to tell if it's 6-volt is if it's been clearance like it has here, here, and here, then that's the smaller 6-volt bell housing. Probably don't want to reuse that. You can buy brand new bell housings. In fact, I have one here. This is a brand new 12-volt bell housing. You can see it's larger. It doesn't have that clearancing here from the smaller 6-volt. This is actually made to accept a 12-volt flywheel already. This is aluminum. It's got strengthening ribs cast into it. So this is a much better unit, and this is brand new. And that's what we're going to start our transmission build with as well, is just one of these. And, you know, this is really the best way to do it these days. Nice and reinforced. You have a hard time breaking something like this. So here we go, guys. Teardown. This is probably the least sexy part of a whole build. It's the part that I really don't like because it's super dirty and messy, but it's got to be done, so we're going to do it. So I got the pan up on jack stands. I already pulled the wheels off. If you don't know how to do that, you shouldn't be watching this video. The next step is we're going to pull all of the sub-assemblies off and get it down to a bare pan. So trans is going to come out. I'm going to pull the front end off just like you see it, and then all the little foo-foo stuff on the chassis is going to come off, like the e-brake, shifter, shift coupler, pedals, all that stuff we're going to get off this. Get it down to just a bare pan so that we can then load it and get it out of here and get this project going into high gear. So stay tuned, we're going to glove up and get to it. Hey, what's a build without a tip? Get one of these packing blankets, get them at Harbor Freight, they're like $5-6. They'll save your knees from dying. So the first thing we're going to do is just pull off these heater cables. I'm not going to reuse the heater on this car because it's a buggy and it'd be pointless, so I'm just going to pull this off, and then what we're going to do is we'll have those holes welded up. I already cut the heater cables in the back to save myself some time. Just yank them out of there. This stuff is garbage. Next step is pull off the e-brake. So you've got your cables that are connected here. There's just two nuts on here. They're just jam nuts, so we'll undo those. And then on here there's a little clip that holds this pin in. So you just remove the clip on both sides, you can tap the pin out, and then this will come out. We'll get going on that. Those are pretty small. Smaller than that. So what you got to do is you got to hold this and undo that at the same time. Sometimes they're stubborn. This one's a little stubborn. I think I'm gonna have to just hold it here because it wants to jump all over the place. So, or a better bet is let's just cut it. There's the right way, there's the wrong way, and there's my way. There's one. Since I'm not reusing anything, I'm just going to cut these. Doesn't matter. I'm tearing it down. You're not going to reuse these because they're ancient. So. See, that's the fast way. So here's this little retaining clip. This is what holds the pin in for your e-brake. Just pull that off. Tap that sucker through. This is the pin on the other side. And this thing should just come right out like that. Okay, one down. Shifter's easy. It's just 2 bolts. We'll pull those out. Let's see if that's it. That's it right there. So that's a 13. It's funny how you think about doing this on a modern car. You gotta have so much stuff, specialty tools, all kinds of electronics in the way, but you're talking about a vintage Volkswagen, it's like a couple of bolts, it's out, no big deal. Like I said, teardown's not the most fun part, but you do learn a lot about the car you're building. You can kind of see all the previous sins that it's been involved in. I've noticed, you know, this was a Baja, like I said, so if you see right here, there's a big whoop-de-doo right there in the pan where obviously it ran over something and it's pitched it up right here. I mean, again, it doesn't matter because this is going to get cut out, but it's good to know your car, and this is the best way to get to know it. I always say everybody should at least attempt one pan-off build in their lifetime. It's not as hard as you think. You can do it yourself right in your garage like we're doing. Definitely worth doing. Okay, that's out. Get the shifter out of here. There's one more important thing you got to do. Sometimes you'll forget that it's even there. So it's best to do it now. And if you come back here, I'll show you. So, pulled the shifter off, but you got the shift rod right here that runs through the tunnel. You got to undo this shift coupler right here to get this trans out. Otherwise, you're going to pull all this out and it's not going to go anywhere. So it's really simple. It's just this one little set screw right here, and you can pull the trans out, and then pull this other side off and you can get it out the front. So that's what we're going to do. This one's destroyed. You can see it. There's nothing left of it. I can pull it out right now. So let's get that thing out of there. I think it's like an 8 mil. That's all there is to it. Pull that out, throw it in the garbage. Slide this off in the nose. Sometimes it's tight, so helps to maybe just get yourself a little bit of leverage. Some spray doesn't hurt either. And come on. There it is, it's off. So you can see now when we unbolt the trans, you can just pull it straight out. There's nothing holding it. And we'll pull that thing apart when we get the shift rod out. So the next step is we're going to take this pedal cluster out, and it's really pretty easy. This is your throttle cable that goes to the back to the motor. That's already been cut, so we're just going to cut it here again. And it's just 2 17mm bolts. They're right there. Get yourself just a long extension. Sneak in there and just undo this. We'll get this out of the way. That one started. I think these bolts are pretty long. And then it's hooked on the clutch cable inside of there, and it's also hooked here. It's just hung up on that. Let's pull the master off just to get it a little bit easier. So that's a 13. Let's get a short 13. And here we go. Let's get this sucker out of the way. It's just really tight in here. So getting some of this stuff loosened up and out of the way will make your life easier. And because we're not reusing any of it, it all just goes right in the garbage. So you don't have to be too careful. So got these two bolts out that hold the master in. So one thing to consider is inside this is called a Napoleon hat, because if you look at it from the front, it looks like the hat of Napoleon. Inside here, there's two little, almost like spacers. They're metal spacers, and they support the bolt as it goes through so that you don't collapse this. And they're just suspended in there right now. So just stick the bolt back in a little bit to kind of hold it in place. You don't want it to drop down. And so now the master is free, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these hard lines because I'm not reusing them. So it's just loosen the whole thing up by cutting them. This one's already loose. One more right here. And just because you can see, boom. That's it, master's out. And now should be able to move this a little bit easier and get this pedal cluster out. But before I do, I want to grab these, see if I can get them out. Sometimes they're in there pretty tight. There's one. That one's pretty tight. See if I can get a screwdriver to move it. If it's tight like that, it's not going to go anywhere, so we're going to leave that. Let's see if we can get this to play ball with us. And that's it. Pedal cluster's out. So it's kind of an order of operations thing. You just got to figure out which order to do it in, and then it'll work with you. So here's the clutch cable coming out. I already cut it at the back, so I can just pull it straight out. And that's going to go straight in the garbage. I'm not going to use any of this, but you can't just cut these. You got to actually pull them out. Sometimes they'll fight you a little bit, but you got to get them free, otherwise it won't come off the pan. And then you got two more in the back. So these are your brake line securing clamps. And I don't think these have ever been off this car. I'm just covered in crap. Now that's free. And we got one more on the other side right here. This one. That one's gonna fight you. It's moving. Not happily, but it's moving. There we go. So all I'm going to do now is just cut these lines and pull it straight out. That way I don't have to sit here and try and disconnect brake lines that are never gonna move. So you got the brake lines cut, those are free. We're doing this because the first thing I wanna do is just pull the whole transaxle out. So again, get your brake lines free, make sure that you don't have your clutch cable on. We already took care of that. We already disconnected up here to the shift coupler. Last thing we need to do is pull these e-brake cables, which you could do by taking the drums apart, but we already snipped it up there, so these should pull out just like that. You get both of these out. There you go. So now just check and make sure. You got to undo here at the spring plate. You got 3 bolts, 1, 2, and then another one underneath. That'll release the axle tube from the spring plate. You've got your 2 main bolts back here on the bell housing. Those 2 need to get off. And then you've got the front trans mount right up here under the nose cone. And there's just 2 bolts, 1 on each side here and there. You undo those, pull this thing straight out. We're halfway home. The brake distribution block, this is the line, or the fitting actually, that the lines connect up to. We're not going to use it obviously. But one thing you want to do is you want to get in here and lift all these tabs up and get this hard brake line out and make sure those tabs are up, because we're going to powder coat our pan. And if you powder coat it and they're down, and then you go to lift them up and put this line in, you run the risk of chipping it or breaking it, or sometimes they get powder coated and they get stuck down and you can't get them out. So that's a tip for you. And that's it for this one. So you can see it's starting to empty out pretty quick. We've already got shifter out, e-brake out, pedal cluster out, master cylinder out. Hard lines are off of it. And now we're down to pulling the trans, that's next. And then we're gonna pull the front end. And once we pull that shift rod out, this thing's empty. The other thing you wanna do too is just get rid of this factory gasket. Should just pull right up. This is trash. So that's off, all the rubber gaskets off of it now. This stuff doesn't matter. This is that factory tar board. There's a bunch of it here too. You could take that off if you wanted to, but this is gonna get blasted, so it'll all come off when it gets blasted. It literally just sheets right off, and it'll save you a ton of heartache. That stuff sucks to remove. Okay, so we're gonna start getting ready to remove the transaxle. So the first thing that I like to do is just undo this front mount. And like I said, it's just 2 nuts. They're right there. If you got yourself a long reach wrench like this, you can get right down to it. And it's a 17. Nice thing about this car is it seems like everything's coming off pretty easily. So this trans I noticed again was a Baja, was solid mounted, so there's no rubber mounts on it. If you notice at the back here, they use the solid mount right here, and then they put a solid mount in the front. That's pretty uncomfortable. I know people like to do that with Bajas, but the replacement mounts, the rubber ones that you can buy right now, the heavy duty ones, are plenty strong. Unless you really like to have your fillings jarred, there's really no reason to go with a solid mount. So we'll pull these off, and much like everything else on this chassis, it's just gonna go right in the trash. The front mount's undone. Now we're gonna undo it at the spring plate, and this brake line's in the way, so let's just cut it. Bend that out of the way. Same over here. So these are 19s, and you got 3 of them, 1, 2, and then the third. So what we'll do is we will get these things off. Sometimes they don't move for you. It helps to tighten it and then break it loose. I don't know why that is, but it does work. So one thing to keep in mind, okay, these spring plates are under tension right here. So there's a torsion bar inside of here, runs the length of this, and it's got teeth here and teeth on the spring plate, and that's what gives you your suspension. It keeps this under tension. So it's best to undo these but leave it tensioned up here. Otherwise, if it's loose and this cap's not on, this thing can come out and hit you or cause some damage. So it's always best to just remove it back here first for safety. Don't ask me how I know. See, that's tight, so let's see if we can tighten it up a little bit. Break it loose. There we go. Oh, hey. So we got that one loose. Let's break this last one loose before we pull that all the way off. And that one's buried back here. There we go. So you can see that spring plate is separating from the axle tube right there. That one wants to sit in there for a minute, so let's get this one off. And we'll just tap those out, and that should be the end of it. Okay, so now we've got the axle tubes broken loose from the spring plates on both sides. Front trans mount is completely loose. So what's left is the two really big trans mounts back here. So I'm going to pull those out. We're going to use the jack, which is right there, and we're going to drop it down onto this cardboard, which is helpful to have. If you don't have cardboard, start collecting. And that'll be the end of it. So I don't remember what size that is, but I use a 1 1/16 inch. Should bust it loose. Just like that. And those paying attention know that's not an impact. You're not supposed to do it, but it works. And these all go in the garbage. So now this thing should be loose to where we can back it out from the hanger here on the pan. But I gotta get that jack under there. Remember that packing blanket I talked about earlier to save your knees? Should be using it right now. So this just helps get a little bit of angle out of the trans. And you should be able to just pull it right out. And we'll see if that works. Yeah, it's in there. So let's see if we can persuade it a little bit. Let's see what it's hanging on. There's a little bit of a hang up. I was going to pull the trans out and it was just stuck solid. And my fear was that they'd re-index these rear plates, which pinches the axle tube, and that's exactly what happened. You can see they use these crappy urethane. Don't ever use these. Even for off-road, they're junk. So it pitches the spring plate at this angle, and there's so much tension that you can't really slide the axle tube out. So you got to get yourself a big hammer, pry bar, force it out. So that's what I did. So now I should be able to pull this thing out. It's stuck right there. So what you got to do is get it past that. And the only way to do that is to smack it. There's the front mount off. But you can see the trans is still kind of pitched in there. So now just move it out of the way like that. You should be able to pull right past it. There it goes. That was a lot of work just to get this thing out of here. Okay, so now we can continue with what we were trying to do before, which is to drop the trans out. So get your jack on the end here. And then you can just walk it right out. Which is gonna be here. Okay. There we go. There we go. Okay, trans is out. That was a fight. We're getting close. So next step is spring plates. I'm gonna reuse these, so we're just gonna pull them off, and they should just pop right off like that. So this is the spring plate. This is your torsion bar. I usually, they're already marked. Here's an R right here for right, so this is the passenger side, obviously. What I usually do is just mark them anyway and then mark the orientation. You don't have to do that, but it does help. So spring plate off, we're gonna pull the other side. That goes in the save pile. Let's see, maybe it'll come off by hand. Oh yeah, see? Right there. And if you look right here, I noticed there's an L right there, so that's left. So they're already marked. I don't think they've been out of the car, but they've definitely been adjusted. So I'm gonna pull those out. We'll save those two. Those go in the save pile. And now we're gonna pull the front end off. Okay, so now we're gonna pull the front end off. And the easiest way to do it is as a complete unit, and then you can break it all apart off the car. The only thing that you really should do while it's here is pop these tie rod ends off. And that's what I'm gonna do. And I just noticed this one's got a Volkswagen stamp on it. It's a factory Volkswagen part, probably the original. So if you get lucky, you can undo these castle nuts and sort of tap it, and it'll pop through. This one's not gonna do it for sure. So the next step is get a bunch of spray on there, and if that won't do it, get some heat. And that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna make a big fire, and then we're gonna pop this thing off. You gotta get it good and hot. Give it a second, we might be able to pop that thing out of there. It's a fighter. Still fighting, doesn't want to come out of there. Hit it one more time, a little bit more heat. Doesn't want to give up. There we go. It's off now, so don't burn yourself. There's that castle nut off of there. Don't do that. There we go. So why do we go through all that effort? Well, the reason is to get this thing off and ultimately get these arms pulled out, you got to take these off. I don't care about the steering box, it's junk. It's going to go in the garbage, but I'm going to save the trailing arms and I'm going to save the spindle carriers. Spindles are trash too, but these carriers, they don't remake them. And these trailing arms are just recently reproduced, but the factory ones are still awesome, Forge ones, so I'm going to save all that. But the rest of this is trash, so to make my life easier, it's just better to pull these off now. So now we can pull the whole beam off. Okay, now we're going to pull the steering box off. We don't need it on here. It's just going to make it easier when we pull this beam off. So we're going to pull this off. It's just 2 bolts, 17 mil. Kind of an odd position, but see if we can get this thing off of here. Okay, that's pretty much clear. So, should be able to just feed this through here by turning this, getting the angle right. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to pull the front off it. It's always good to get a jack underneath it. You can see I got cardboard there because it's going to come down. And when you do it by yourself, you want to make sure you protect your floor. So I'm going to stick a jack underneath it just to take some of the brunt of the fall. But basically it's just, at this point, those 4 bolts right here, and that thing's done. It's coming out. And at that point we really have a pan. So you just get this kind of position. Right there. A little bit of tension just to hold it. It's gonna go flying, but what are you gonna do? So let's pull these bolts out. Oh, we got some of those little protectors on there. So sometimes you have a pan like ours that hasn't been apart. They got these little fold over deals that are supposed to hold the bolt in place and not back out. They do a decent job, obviously. These have lasted since '65, but it's time to take the bolts out. So just bend those tabs out of the way. And everybody stand back. Should go flying. Watch your feet. There it is. Pull this jack out of there, and it's done. And there's your front end off the car. So now the last part, which is remove the inspection cover. And once you get this off, you're going to have access to the shift rod, which is here, and we need to pull that out. Is the shift rod. Can you see it? That help? So we're going to now pull this shift rod out. And so the best way to do it is to try and pass it forward through here, although it's probably going to fight me. So let me see if I can turn it and get it to move. It should start coming forward. Yeah, it's probably going to get hung up. I've got to turn it, move it. And then probably what? Right here now? There we are. Okay, here's the shift rod. It's going to be a disgusting greasy mess. That's it. We need this. We're going to shorten this up 14.5 inches. And then it's going to go back into our shortened chassis. But this is the last piece we needed to get out. So let's load it in the truck. And now we're going to load the pan into the back of the truck with one person. Audio got a little messed up here, but basically you can do this by yourself. All you need is one of these rolling chairs. I got this one from Harbor Freight. It's a pretty nice one. So I'll just throw a towel down to protect it. Get a piece of wood also, because this is going to span the gap between the two frame horns here. And once you get it on the chair, you can kind of roll it in. That's the idea. So one person can do this. Just get back here. You're going to just lay the pan, the frame horns on this little setup on the chair. Now it's mobile from the back, and then you can grab it in the front there and just walk it straight into the bed of a truck. One person, do the whole thing by yourself. Get this thing into the truck, and that's one less thing we got to worry about in this restoration. And just pick it up, lay it in, you're halfway home. And here it is in the truck, one person. You actually can do it pretty easily with one person if you use the little chair method. But anyway, it's loaded, it's in the truck, and so the next step is we're gonna head to Orange County. We're gonna go to Washburn's Metal, and they're pretty well known for doing their chassis, and that's what they're gonna do for us. We're gonna take this pan and have them modify it for a Manx. So that means cutting out about 14.25 inches from about this rear spine area using a flat pan. You know, basically some cool touches that we're going to add to this. I'm not going to tell you about it now, but you're going to get to see the whole thing happen. So we're going to follow along with Washburns as they modify this chassis, and then it'll come back to us and we're going to go do the powder coat process, which we're going to show you too. Sounds like a lot of stuff to happen and not a whole lot of time. If you remember, we're going to turn this thing into a road-going show-worthy Manx in 30 days, and clock is ticking. So we got to get rolling. So hang with us. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, why not? You should. There's all kinds of cool Volkswagen stuff going on here, and we're always doing new projects. This is just one of the many that we have going on. So make sure that you can drop a comment, tell us what you think of this project so far, check out some of our other videos, subscribe, tell your friends, all that good stuff. It helps us keep building, and maybe you guys will get involved in some future projects. You never know. We got all kinds of stuff happening. So we don't have time to sit here. I got to get a haircut, and we need to get this thing over to Washburns. So let's go get started.